The market of chains. The night sky above the alien city glowed with strange lights, red and green beams cutting across the darkness. The air smelled of smoke and metal, and the streets were alive with voices. Some voices laughed, some cried, and some begged for mercy. In the center of this city stood the market, not a market of food or gold, but a market of living beings. Inside the market, cages were stacked one after another. Some cages held strange creatures with scales. Some had beasts with claws, and some had beings who once walked free but were now sold like cattle. The crowd moved like hungry shadows, eyes shining as they looked at the captives. Chains rattled, and the sound echoed through the air like cruel music. Among all the cages, there was one that caught the eye of a lone traveler. He was not like the others. He did not laugh or cheer. He walked slowly, quietly, watching. His cloak was dark, hiding most of his face. Only his eyes moved, sharp and restless. Then he saw her. In a small iron cage pushed into the corner sat a human girl. Her wrists were tied, her neck locked with a metal collar. The traders called her a pleasure animal, a being not worth respect, only worth use, but she was not like the others. Her face was not broken, her eyes were not empty. Instead, her eyes burned with a strange fire. The traveler stopped walking. He felt something stir inside him. Around her the crowd whispered. Some pointed and laughed. A human, one alien said. They are rare. And this one is young, another voice sneered. Keep her chained, humans bite, humans fight. They never bow. The girl sat still, but her eyes moved. She did not look at the crowd. She did not look at the guards. She looked straight at the traveler. Her gaze cut through the noise, sharp and calm for a moment. It was as if the market grew silent. Then she spoke. Her voice was low, soft, but clear enough to be heard. Take me home, she said. The words froze the traveler. They were not the words of an animal, not the words of a broken slave. They were the words of someone who still remembered freedom, someone who still believed in it. The crowd gasped. Did she just speak? One alien asked. Others laughed nervously. A trick, maybe, but dangerous. Very dangerous. The trader guarding her cage hit the bars with a stick. Silence, he shouted, but she did not look at him. She only kept her eyes on the traveler. Her lips curved in the smallest smile, not of joy, but of defiance. The traveler felt the weight of her stare. He did not know why, but he could not look away. Something about her was different. Something about her felt alive in a place filled with death. He remembered the stories whispered in the dark. Stories about humans. Some said they were weak. Some said they were cursed, but some said they were something else. Something the galaxy feared. The chains rattled again as the girl shifted. Her voice echoed in his mind. Take me home. The traveler's heart beat faster. He did not plan for this, he only came to watch. But now he stood before a choice. The crowd laughed again, betting coins on her price. The trader shouted numbers and the bidding began. The traveler's hand moved to his belt. Where his credits were hidden, he felt the weight of them. Heavy but not enough for such a risk. Buying her meant danger. Buying her meant enemies. Buying her meant he would never be the same. And yet, as her eyes locked with his, he knew the truth. He could not walk away. Not tonight, not from her. The market of chains roared with noise. But in that corner, in that single cage, a spark had been lit. A spark that could change everything. The eyes that spoke. The bidding floor shook with voices. Coins clattered, numbers rose, and the trader's face glowed with greed. He shouted about the rare human like she was a prize horse. He spoke of her skin, her youth, her obedience. But none of his words were true. She was not obedient, not broken, not silent. The traveler stood still. His hand touched the pouch at his belt. His credits were heavy but not endless. He listened to the voices around him. Aliens with sharp teeth, others with metal arms, all eager to own what they thought was nothing but an animal. But then, her eyes, they were fixed on him. Not on the cage, not on the trader, not on the cruel crowd. Only on him. Her stare was steady. Piercing, almost commanding for a moment. He felt as if the chains around her wrists were an illusion, as if she could stand up and walk out any second. And then she spoke again. No one expected it, no one believed it. But the sound was clear. Her voice slid through the noise like a blade through cloth. Take me home, she said again, calm, unshaken. The crowd gasped. An alien with green scales shouted, She speaks! That is not allowed. Another hissed, Dangerous creature, she must be silenced. The trader banged his stick against the bars. Quiet, slave. he barked, but she did not move, she did not bow her head. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, and her eyes, those burning human eyes, never left the traveler. The traveler's breath grew shallow. Something ancient stirred in his chest. A memory not his own. A feeling passed down through blood. He remembered stories told in whispers across the galaxy. Humans were not strong, not the fastest, not the tallest, but they were dangerous for one reason: their will. Their eyes carried a fire that could not be put out. The crowd began to murmur louder. Some feared her voice. Some wanted her silenced forever. The bidding turned into chaos. The price rose higher and higher, but the traveler could not hear them anymore. He only heard her words echoing inside his mind. "Take me home," the traitor laughed. "Who dares take this cursed creature? Who will pay the price?" The traveler stepped forward. His voice was low but steady. "I will." The crowd fell silent for a moment. All eyes turned to him. The traitor raised an eyebrow. "You? Do you know what you buy? This is not a pet, not a servant. She will cut your throat in your sleep." But the traveler did not look at the traitor. He only looked at her, and her gaze never wavered. The bidding ended. The credits were exchanged, the keys were turned. The cage opened with a rusty creak, for the first time in what felt like years. The girl stepped out, her chains still bound her wrists. The collar still gripped her neck, but her back was straight. Her steps calm, she did not stumble. She did not cry. She walked like someone already free. The crowd watched in silence, waiting for her to fall, waiting for her to beg. But she did neither. Instead, she turned her head slowly, eyes still locked on the traveler. Her lips moved once more. But this time the words were different. "Now," she whispered, "your life changes too." The traveler felt a chill run through his spine. He understood then that he had not simply bought a slave. He had bought a storm, a spark, a secret, something that could burn the chains of more than just one cage. The crowd erupted again, some laughing, some shouting warnings. But the traveler and the girl did not hear them. For in that moment, in the space between chains and freedom, a silent promise was made. She would not be just a captive. She would be something far more dangerous. And he had just chosen to walk into the fire with her. A dangerous bargain. The market grew louder as the deal was sealed. The trader laughed as he counted the heavy credits, his sharp teeth flashing in the firelight. The crowd muttered and hissed, some amused, some angry. No one understood why a stranger would pay so much for a human, especially one who dared to speak. The traveler stood firm, his hand on the girl's chain. The iron links felt cold, heavy, and alive with meaning. She was his now, at least by law. But in his heart he already knew the truth. She was not owned, not tamed, not broken. Her fire was too strong, and he had just stepped into it. The traitor leaned close, his voice low and mocking. "Foolish choice, stranger. Humans do not serve. They bite, they wait, they strike. They never rest until you bleed. You may hold the chain, but soon it will wrap around your throat." The traveler did not answer. He only pulled the chain gently, guiding her away from the cage. Her steps were calm, measured, never rushed, as if she had been waiting for this moment for years. The crowd watched them leave, whispers chasing them like shadows. Outside the market, the city was alive with neon lights and strange music. Tall towers of glass and steel rose into the sky. Filled with the hum of alien machines, ships flew overhead, leaving burning trails in the night. But among all that noise, the sound of her chains was the loudest. The traveler finally spoke, his voice quiet under his hood. "Why me? Why did you choose me?" The girl turned her head slightly. Her eyes glowed in the dim light. "Because you looked," she said. "The others saw an animal." "You saw me?" Her words struck deep. He had no answer. He realized she was right. He had looked, and that choice had already changed everything. They reached a shadowed alley where the noise of the city faded. The traveler stopped. He studied her, and she studied him. There was no fear in her gaze, only challenge. "You are free now," he said slowly. "At least from the market." She shook her head, the iron collar rattling. "Free? Look at me, these chains are still here. They will hunt me, they will hunt you too. Freedom is not given. It is taken." The traveler felt the weight of her words. She was not asking for safety, not begging for protection. She was warning him. A bargain had been made, not with the traitor, but with fate itself. He asked, "Who are you really?" For a long moment she was silent. Then her voice came soft but steady. "I am not what they say. Not an animal, I am human. My name is Arya, and I will never bow. Her name hung in the air like fire. Arya, the sound of it carried strength. The traveler whispered it once under his breath, and it felt like speaking an oath. From the shadows, movement stirred. The traveler's hand went to his weapon. A group of figures stepped out, bounty hunters. Their eyes glowed with greed, their weapons ready. "The human belongs to us," one hissed. "Return her, or die." Arya's lips curved into that same dangerous smile. She whispered, "I told you. Your life changes now." The traveler felt his pulse quicken. He had only wanted to leave the market quietly, but already blood was in the air. Already enemies surrounded them. This was the true cost of the bargain. And yet, as he glanced at her, standing tall despite the chains, he knew he would not turn back. He had bought more than a girl, more than a slave. He had bought into a storm. The hunters raised their blades, the city lights flickered above. The air grew heavy with danger. In that moment, the traveler realized the truth. This was not a bargain for gold or flesh. This was a bargain for destiny. The silent escape. The alley was narrow, walls wet with dripping steam. Neon lights flickered above, painting the shadows red and green. The bounty hunters blocked the exit. Their weapons glowing, Arya stood with chains on her wrists. But her back was straight, her eyes sharp, not afraid, not broken. The traveler reached for his blade. The hunters laughed. "You paid for her, stranger. But she belongs to us all. Humans are too dangerous to be free. Hand her over. And maybe we let you live." The traveler did not move. His cloak shifted as his hand tightened around the weapon. His eyes flicked toward Arya. For a brief second, he saw her nod, slow and certain. It was not a plea, it was a signal. The first hunter lunged, fast and heavy. The traveler ducked. The blade slashed past his head. In a single strike, he cut the hunter's leg. Sparks flew as metal armor broke. The alley filled with the roar of battle. Arya moved too, her chains clattered, but she used them like a weapon, swinging her bound wrists. She struck another hunter across the face. The chain split skin, teeth flew. The crowd in the market might have called her weak, but here, in the shadows, she was a storm. The fight was quick and brutal. The traveler's blade dripped with blood. Arya's chains were red. The last hunter tried to run, but Arya stepped forward and caught him with a single strike. Her collar still locked, her hands still bound, but her will was sharper than steel. Silence fell over the alley. Only the hiss of steam remained. The traveler looked at her, stunned. She was no helpless captive. She was something else, something he could not name. Arya stood over the fallen hunters, her breath steady. "They will send more," she said. "This is only the beginning." The traveler nodded. He wiped his blade clean, his voice was low. "Then we must move." Quietly, they slipped through the city like shadows. The main streets roared with voices, merchants selling, guards patrolling, eyes everywhere. But Arya walked with a strange calm. Even in chains, she did not stumble, she did not cry. She counted steps, noted corners, memorized every turn. The traveler realized something. She was not just escaping, she was studying. Every wall, every patrol, every exit, she saw everything. The chains rattled, but her mind was free. At one checkpoint, guards marched by with glowing spears. The traveler pressed Arya back against the wall. Her breath brushed his ear, soft but steady. "Wait. Now," she whispered, and they slipped past without a sound. At another corner, a drunk merchant staggered, nearly spotting them before the traveler could act. Arya dropped low, pulling him with her. They hid under a broken sign until the danger passed. She was chained, but she was leading, finally. They reached the edge of the city where the towers ended and the wastelands began. The air smelled of dust and old fire. The traveler stopped, his chest rising with heavy breaths. He looked at her. "You move like a soldier." Arya's eyes met his. Calm, unreadable. "I was taught to fight," she said, "not to kneel." The traveler's grip tightened on her chain. "Then why did you let them take you?" For the first time, her gaze darkened. A shadow passed over her face. "Because they did not just take me, they took everything," she whispered. "And I swore one day I would take it back." The wind howled across the wastelands, carrying the smell of iron and ash. The traveler knew the truth then. This was not an escape. This was the beginning of something much greater. Behind them, alarms began to ring through the city. Voices shouted, horns blew. The hunt had already started. Arya turned her head toward the sound, but her eyes were bright, burning. She whispered only one word, but it carried more weight than chains or walls. "Run, and together they disappeared into the night. The first secret, the wasteland stretched before them. Dark and endless, the city's glow faded behind. Alarms still echoing in the distance, wind carried dust across the broken ground. Every step away from the towers felt like walking deeper into danger, yet also closer to freedom. The traveler pulled Arya's chain loose from his hand. Letting it drag in the dirt, she did not try to flee. She walked beside him silent, her eyes fixed on the horizon. It struck him again. She was not a slave running, she was a fighter waiting. When they finally stopped at the ruins of an old outpost, the traveler lit a small fire. The flames flickered against the cracked walls. Arya sat across from him, her wrists still bound. The light touched her face, and for the first time, he saw the scars beneath the dirt, thin lines along her arms, a mark across her neck. He broke the silence. "You fight like no one I've seen. You move like you were trained. Who taught you?" Her eyes stayed on the fire, her voice came low, steady. "Humans taught me, my people taught me before they fell." The traveler frowned. "Fell? What do you mean?" Arya lifted her wrists, the chains clinking. "Do you know why the galaxy keeps humans chained? Why they fear us even when we are broken?" The traveler said nothing, waiting. She leaned forward, her voice sharper now. "Because we were not always slaves. Once we fought them. Once we stood as warriors. Not the strongest, not the fastest, but we did not stop. We never stopped." The fire cracked and shadows danced on the walls. The traveler felt the weight of her words. He had heard rumors and backroom whispers, stories of human soldiers long ago, but they were said to be myths, tales to scare children. Yet here she was, speaking as if she had lived them. Arya's eyes glowed with memory. "I was taken when I was 13. My colony was attacked, my people resisted. We held them for weeks, we fought until we had nothing left. I watched my father fall with fire in his hands. I watched my mother refuse to kneel. I was chained because I survived." Her voice broke slightly but did not fall to weakness. She lifted her chin. "They called us animals because they could not break us. And now they try to make us forget, but I remember every day. I remember." The traveler studied her, his chest tightened. He had thought she was just a rare human girl, a slave with spirit, but this was something else. She carried more than pain. She carried the ashes of a people. Arya leaned closer, her eyes locked on his. "Do you know why I spoke to you in that market? Why I said, 'Take me home'?" He shook his head slowly. "Because I saw it in you," she whispered. "You looked, not at my chains, not at my collar. You looked at my eyes, you saw me, and I need someone who sees. Because this fight is bigger than me, bigger than you, if I am to keep my vow. I cannot do it alone." The traveler felt the fire's heat, but the chill of her words sank deeper. He had not asked for this. He only wanted to walk through the market, to pass unnoticed, yet fate had tied him to her, to something far beyond himself. He asked carefully, "What vow?" Arya's lips curved, not in joy but in steel. "The vow to break the chains, not just mine, not just ours, all of them. Every last one." The firelight danced in her eyes, and for the first time the traveler understood. She was not running, she was rising, and whether he wished it or not, he had stepped onto that path with her. The memory of fire, the fire in the ruins burned low, sparks drifting into the night wind. The traveler sat in silence, his blade resting across his knees. Across from him, Arya's eyes were distant, as if she was looking not at the flames but through them into another time. At last she spoke, her voice soft but carrying weight. "Do you want to know why they call us cursed? Why they chain us, why they fear us?" The traveler nodded slowly. His cloak rustled in the dry wind. Arya lifted her bound hands, the chains clinking softly. "Because they remember what I remember, the memory of fire." Her eyes glowed as she spoke, and her words painted a picture more vivid than the flames before them. "I was a child when the war came," she said. "The sky burned red with their ships. They came with weapons, with armies, with numbers beyond counting. They thought we would kneel. They thought we would beg. But we did not. My people fought. Not because we could win, but because we would not bow." The traveler felt the weight in her tone. He saw her jaw tighten as she continued. "I remember my father, his hands scarred from work. Holding a rifle too heavy for him. I remember my mother, her eyes fierce as she stood beside him. I remember neighbors, children, even the old, all standing in the streets with whatever they could carry, metal pipes, knives, stones, anything. And I remember the fear in the invaders' eyes when they realized, humans do not surrender. Her chains rattled as she shifted, her breath sharp. We had no shields, no fleets, but we had something they did not. We had will. And will is fire, it burns even when the body falls. Even when hope dies, it does not stop. It never stops. The traveler leaned closer, caught in the storm of her voice. He could almost see it. The flames rising against the dark sky, the humans standing like shadows of steel. Arya's voice lowered, carrying sorrow now. I watched the last stand. I was small, hidden under broken stone. I saw the soldiers fall one by one, but none turned their back. I saw my father throw his last breath like a weapon. I saw my mother bleed with a smile, and I heard the aliens whisper, "They are cursed. They do not know fear." The traveler's chest tightened. He saw tears shine in her eyes, but they did not fall. They burned there. Refusing to fall, Arya whispered. That is why they chain us, not because we are weak, but because they fear the day we rise again. The day we remember who we are. The fire cracked and died to embers. The night stretched silent. Only the wind moved, carrying dust across the ruins. The traveler looked at her, his voice low, almost a whisper. And you? You remember it all? Her eyes turned to his, sharp and bright. I do. And I swore on that day, on the ashes of my family, I swore I would carry the memory. I would not let it die. They tried to break me. They chained me, they sold me, but they could not touch the fire for a moment. Silence lay between them. The traveler felt his throat dry. He realized now what he had stepped into. Not just a rescue, not just a choice in a market. He had stepped into the memory of fire itself. Arya leaned forward, her chains glinting in the dim light. Her voice turned sharp again. Tell me, traveler, are you ready to carry it too? The fire, the curse, the vow. The wind roared across the wasteland like a ghostly echo. The traveler closed his eyes for a moment. His hand clenched around the hilt of his blade. When he opened them, he met her gaze, steady and unbroken. I am, he said, and in that moment, under the broken sky, the fire of a fallen people passed into him. The galaxy did not know it yet, but the spark had spread. The awakening. The ruins slept under the pale moon. The fire had burned down to ash. The traveler lay against the broken wall. His cloak pulled tight. His eyes were heavy. But his mind would not rest. He kept hearing her words, the vow, the fire, the curse. Arya sat across from him silent. Her chains coiled around her wrists like dead snakes. She stared at the night sky, her face calm but her breath sharp. For hours she did not move, not even blink. Then, as the traveler's eyes finally closed, something changed. Her body trembled, but not with fear. Her skin glowed faintly, as if the fire inside her was trying to escape. She pressed her hands into the dirt, her breath quickening. The chains rattled, but she did not fight them. She closed her eyes, and the air around her grew still. The traveler woke with a start. His hand went to his blade. His eyes widened. The air felt heavy, as if the ruins themselves were holding their breath. And there she was, glowing faintly, her skin warm with light. Her wounds from the fight in the alley were gone, her skin smooth. What are you? He whispered. Arya opened her eyes. They burned gold for a moment before fading back to human brown. She lifted her hands, the chains clinking. Not what they think, not what they fear. Something more. The traveler shook his head. You healed in hours. That cut on your arm, it vanished. She nodded slowly. It started after the fall. After they chained me, I began to change. My body remembered the fire, my blood carried it at first. I thought it was madness, but then I understood. Humans do not just fight, we adapt. We become what we must. The traveler stared, his chest tightened. You mean evolution? Her lips curved into a grim smile. Faster than nature allows. Forced by chains, by war, by loss, they tried to break us. But instead they woke something new. She rose to her feet. The chains dragging across the stone, her back straightened. Her presence filling the ruins like a storm. I can hear things before they happen. I feel danger before it comes. My body heals faster. My strength grows in silence. They call us animals. But in truth, they fear the day we stop being prey. The traveler's hand trembled on his blade. Not from fear of her, but from the weight of her words. He understood now. She was not only the memory of fire, she was the next stage of it. Arya walked closer, her eyes steady. Do you see it, traveler? The galaxy made a mistake in trying to chain us. They created something stronger, and I am not the only one. There are more, hidden, waiting, changing. Her voice cut through the night like steel. This is not just survival. This is awakening. The ruins shivered with the howl of distant horns. The city was searching, the bounty hunters would come again. But now the traveler did not see a chained girl before him. He saw a storm wrapped in flesh. A fire waiting to burn, he whispered. Then they will hunt you harder. They will try to end you before you rise. Arya's eyes glowed faintly again. Let them try, she said. They do not understand. Humans are not born to kneel. We are born to rise, and when we rise, the galaxy will tremble. The wind swept the ash into the night. The traveler looked at her, and for the first time he felt not just duty, not just fear, but hope, a dangerous hope. Arya turned her gaze toward the horizon, her voice soft but certain. The awakening has begun, and in that silence the traveler realized the truth. He was no longer guiding her, she was guiding him. The rising storm, the wasteland stretched under a cold dawn. The first light touched the broken towers of the city far behind them. Horns still echoed from its walls, calling hunters into the wild. Arya and the traveler walked across the dust, their steps silent but heavy with danger. The traveler kept looking back, scanning the horizon. He could see dark shapes moving, small at first, then larger. Bounty hunters, riding machines that floated low to the ground, their eyes fixed on the trail. The hunt had begun. Arya walked with steady steps, the chain still dragging behind her. She did not look back. She did not show fear. Her voice came low, sharp. They will come in waves. They will not stop until we are dead or taken. The traveler frowned. Then we need to hide. But Arya shook her head, her eyes burning. No, hiding is what they expect. We fight not like prey, but like hunters. The traveler's chest tightened. She was still bound, still collared, yet she spoke as if she was free already. He remembered her words. Humans adapt. Humans rise. He tightened his grip on his blade. Then we fight together. By noon, the hunters reached them. The machine circled, kicking up dust. Weapons pointed, voices hissing. Return the human, stranger, she is marked. She belongs to the masters. Arya stepped forward. The chains rattling, her voice carried across the storm of dust. I belong to no one. The first shot cracked the air. The traveler pulled his blade and charged. His cloak flew behind him as he struck the nearest machine. Sparks burst as metal split. The rider fell screaming into the dirt. Arya moved too, faster than her chains should allow. She swung the iron links, wrapping them around a hunter's throat. With a twist, she dragged him down. Her strength unnatural, her eyes burning. She used her chains as a weapon, each strike breaking bone. The fight raged across the wasteland. The hunters came in packs, but the two moved like fire and storm. The traveler's blade flashed silver. Arya's chains cracked like thunder. One by one, the hunters fell, but more kept coming. Black ships darkened the sky. Dropping new riders into the dust, the storm was growing. The traveler's breath grew heavy, his arms aching. There are too many, he shouted. Arya's voice cut through the chaos, fierce and alive. Then we show them what humans are. She ripped her chains free from one fallen hunter's armor. The collar glowed as if resisting, but with a scream she pulled. The metal cracked, sparks flying for the first time. Her wrists were bare, bleeding but free. The traveler stared, shocked. Her body glowed faintly again. The same golden fire he had seen before, but stronger now. Her wounds closed. Her stance shifted, she moved faster, sharper. Each strike was a storm. The hunters faltered, some tried to retreat, fear breaking their charge. The word spread quickly across their ranks. She is awakened. She is cursed. She is human. The fight slowed, silence falling as the last hunters fled into the horizon, leaving only dust and broken machines. The traveler dropped to his knees, breathless. He looked at her, and his voice came rough. You broke them. You broke yourself free. Arya stood in the storm of dust, her wrists bleeding but unchained. Her collar still burned red, but her eyes glowed brighter. No, she whispered. This is only the beginning. They will send armies now. They will bring their masters, but let them come, because every step they take toward me will awaken more. The fire will spread. The traveler rose slowly. His chest tightened with both fear and pride. He understood now. The storm was not chasing them. The storm was following her, and soon the whole galaxy would feel it. The spark of humanity. The horizon burned with the glow of engines. Dark ships filled the sky, their shadows swallowing the wasteland. The traveler gripped his blade. His knuckles white. Arya stood beside him, her wrists scarred but free, the broken chains lying at her feet. The air was heavy, as if the whole world was holding its breath. "They are here," the traveler said. Arya's eyes burned with that golden fire. She did not flinch, did not step back. "Let them come," she whispered. "This is the moment I have waited for." The ships opened their bellies. Hunters poured into the sand like black rain. Their weapons glowed, their voices roared. The ground shook with the weight of an army. Yet Arya stood tall, the collar still locked on her neck. Her body glowing faintly with power, the traveler whispered. "We cannot face them all." Arya turned to him, her voice calm but fierce. "No, not alone. But we are not alone." At first he did not understand. Then the wind carried it, voices, footsteps, shadows moving across the dunes from the broken rocks and hidden tunnels. Figures began to emerge, humans, dozens, then hundreds, chained, scarred, but alive. Their eyes burned the same as Arya's. The traveler's breath caught. You called them?" Arya's lips curved in that small, dangerous smile. No, they were already waiting. They only needed the spark. The hunters hesitated as the humans gathered. Men, women, even children, all scarred by chains, all carrying weapons made of scraps. They were weak, some broken. But their eyes told another story. They remembered. Arya stepped forward, her voice cutting through the storm. "They call us animals, they call us cursed, but today, we show them what we are," the humans roared. A sound that shook the sand itself. The hunters faltered, fear flickering across their alien faces. The battle began. The sky cracked with fire. The ground shook with screams. The traveler fought beside Arya, his blade flashing silver, cutting through armor. Arya moved like fire, her chains whipping, her hands glowing. Every strike broke more than bodies, it broke fear. The humans fought with a fury the galaxy had forgotten. Each time one fell, two more rose. They had no shields, no fleets, but they had will. And will was stronger than any weapon. The traveler was thrown to the ground, a hunter's blade at his throat before it struck. Arya's chain snapped across the enemy's neck. Dragging him away, she pulled the traveler to his feet. Her voice sharp. "Stand, you chose this. Now fight." He rose again. And this time his fear was gone. He roared with the others, his blade striking like thunder. Together they pushed the hunters back. Step by step, the alien ships fired down. Burning the sand the humans should have broken, should have scattered, but they stood. They burned with the fire of Arya's vow, one voice becoming many, one spark becoming a storm at the center of it all. Arya tore the collar from her neck, sparks and blood flew. But she stood free. Her eyes glowed gold, brighter than the fires around her. She lifted the broken collar high for all to see. "We are not slaves, we are not animals. We are human." The roar that followed shook the sky. The hunters broke, their machines turning, their voices shrieking with fear. The ships above began to retreat. The storm had turned against them. When the dust cleared, the battlefield was broken, bodies and machines scattered. The traveler dropped to his knees. His blade heavy, he looked up at Arya, standing tall. Her body glowing faintly, her chest rose and fell. Her eyes filled with both sorrow and fire. She looked at him, and in a voice soft but sharp, she whispered the words again. "Take me home." But now he understood. It was not just her home, not just Earth. It was the home of all humans. Lost but not forgotten. The traveler rose slowly. He nodded, his voice steady. "We will." And as the sun rose over the wasteland, the spark of humanity burned brighter than ever. A fire that no chain could hold, a storm that no master could stop. A story that had only just begun.